Well, as we kick start off with the Caribbean East Africa, the Kenyan FinTech Associations form an umbrella body. Now, five major representative associations in the fintech sector have actually formed an umbrella body called the FinTech Alliance, that is to drive the growth of and development of the industry. Now, the TFA is the latest in the measures that is to consolidate the efforts that is among the sector players as regulations and investments in the sector really grow. Now, the alliance will definitely focus on lobbying, that is for policy and regulatory reforms, supporting access to capital, enhancing innovation, and catalyzing economic and social growth. Now, the five-member associations include the Association of the FinTechs in Kenya. Of course, there is the Digital Finance Services Association. Then there is the Digital Credit Providers Association and Blockchain Association that is in Kenya. Now, according to the alliance, they say that by uniting and a better position to address the challenges, seize opportunities, and drive meaningful change in the industry, and together they believe that they will shape the future of the fintech in Kenya and beyond. This is according to Ali Hussein, the spokesperson of the FinTech Alliance. That's what he said. Now, the ongoing fintech revolution has actually seen significant developments and investments in the sector, as well as a rapidly evolving regulations and policy landscape. Now, as competition heats up, the sector has attracted a growing number of foreign firms, as well as an increasing number of products and services. Now, the fintech solutions currently in the market include digital lending platform, investment platforms, the cryptocurrency services, and buy now, pay platforms. Now, the rapid growth has definitely seen the fintech emerge as one of the largest recipients of venture funding in the country. Now, the startups in Kenya received 88% of the total raised in East Africa and more than a quarter of the continent's total, according to a report that is by Africa, the Big Deal. You know, that's what it says. And of course, we know that Kenya is one of those countries that have positioned themselves quite efficient when it comes to the fintech space, and not only just the fintech space, but also the entire technology landscape. They seem to be ahead of us Ugandans in quite so many ways, and they are well positioned, and it explains why we see even digital content creators actually are making a lot of money as a result of that. Some of the young Kenyans, when you get back, have decided to embark on creating digital content that can actually be, commercialized to some degree. Okay, now still in Kenya, we take a look at the country's 5G footprint, which is actually grown by 25%. This is according to the report, and also the broadcast services deep. Now, the efforts by the major telcos in Kenya, that is to grow their 5G connection footprint, are actually paying off as the number of subscriptions grew from 739,000 in the fourth quarter to about 936. That is about a 25% surge, according to the Communications Authority of Kenya. Now, we see that the mobile data subscriptions grew, that is from about 52.5 million in June 2024 to about 53.6 million in September 2024, remaining a crucial facet for internet adoption in the country. Now, the 4G internet remains the most popular connection that is in Kenya, with about 31.18 million subscribers. That is up from 29.39 million. That is in the last quarter. Now, the 5G internet was first launched in October of 2022 by Safaricom. That is Airtel, Equitel, who joined the race that is come 2023 and 2024 respectively. Now, the demand for the 5G networks has actually been driven by the growing popularity, most especially of remote working, online learning, streaming entertainment content, and also e-commerce at the same time. Now, the major barrier to the 5G adoption is compatibility with the older smartphones, but with the rising popularity that is of long gadgets and per day financing models, these challenges actually likely to be transcended. Now, the growth in internet subscriptions has actually reshaped the consumer habits, spelling a green future that is for the broadcast services like the digital terrestrial television, talking about the direct G-home television and the cable networks. Now, most of the networks under the broadcast services did not register that is a remarkable growth in subscribers, none growing at more than 5%, that is during the period. Now, the industry saw about a 4% decrease in subscription, that is from 6.39 million in June 2013 million that was in September. Now, of course, the report says that the Azam TV subscriptions dropped considerably. That is from 81,553 in June to about 26,723 in September. Now, of course, the Star Times DHT subscriptions, they fell by 48.9%. And Zuku dropped by about 30.9%. And DSTV subscribers hit about 1.2 million in September, a slight at 1.3% surge. That is from 1.1 million in June. And then, of course, we see that the Gold TV subscription only rose by about 0.5%. Now, the broadcast services have faced stiff competition. That is from the streaming services such as Netflix, Showmax, which are significantly cheaper and offer more flexibility. Now, they also face competition from the free-to-access platforms such as YouTube, forcing many to adapt, that is, to their business models to access online audiences and revenues outside the traditional broadcast service. So that is how it is standing out in Kenya. The broadcast service is deep, whereas the 5G adoption in Kenya has actually increased, and one of the reasons as to why, because in the report they say that the key hindrance could actually be the compatibility of the 5G with the smartphones, but there has been packages whereby people can actually buy these smartphones and pay in bits, and they pay in installments, so that makes it available. That makes it possible for the people to actually adapt to these trends. All right, now as we wind up the Caribbean East Africa report, let's take a look at the East Africa Simplified Trade Regime, which has actually helped the small-scale merchants doing business that is across the borders with ease. Now, the East African community is implementing a simplified trade regime designed to help the small-scale across-border merchants by reducing red tape customs bureaucracy. Now, under the new arrangement, the traders with goods valued that is below 2,000 United States dollars enjoy a simplified, hassle-free clearance process with assistance from the customs officials stationed at the border stations, according to the Secretary General of the East African Community, that is Veronica Nduva. That's what she said. Now, on the other hand, the introduction of regional electronic cargo electronic cargo tracking systems and single customs territory has reduced smuggling and increased the tax revenues. This still according to the East Africa Secretary General, adding that digital systems have actually improved customs efficiency and transparency at the same time. Now, speaking during the ceremony to commemorate the East Africa community headquarters in Arusha, she disclosed that the community actively works to eliminate the non-tariff barriers and bureaucratic procedures and restrictive trade policies. Now, the East African Secretary urged East African partner states' customs authorities to embrace the state-of-the-art tools, including the artificial intelligence, to streamline the customs procedures across the region, adding to the adoption of artificial intelligence. Also, a go along in combating illicit trade within the region. So artificial intelligence can help, and when it comes to combating illicit trade, how is that a reality? Of course, we shall be seeing that later on. Now, at the same time, called upon the customs authorities to demystify the customs procedures and explain them in simpler terms to the stakeholders and the members of the public, adding that integration in East Africa was essentially about the people at the grassroots. Now, the East Africa community's total trade with the rest of the world rose to about 80.6 billion United States dollars. That is in 2023, up from 78.7 billion. That is CAM 2022. Now, the foreign direct investment grew from 3.7 billion that was in 2013 to about 12.9 billion in 2021, reflecting increased confidence in the region's trade systems. Now, the Secretary General said that the East Africa community has actually adapted a common external tariff, which has helped to regulate the imports from outside the East Africa community, protecting the local industries. Now, speaking at the ceremony, still the president of the Federation of the East African Freight Forwarders Associations, that is Charles Mwebenzi, said that the private sector would actually continue to audit the customs systems to ensure that they become better. That is what he said. Now, on his part, Alban advisor, that is of trade infrastructure at the Tony Blair Institute, called for a mindset change, even as the continent tries to adapt new technologies. Of course, he observed that there has been a challenge at the borders where the problems, including congestion, tracks, and delays, continue at the border posts, even in instances where the new technologies have actually been put in place. You know, that is quite a huge concern in there. And well, that is it for the Caribbean, East Africa. And now let's switch and take a look at what is making headlines beyond the borders of East Africa. Now, DeepSeek is actually making headlines, of course, with the masses saying, is China's artificial tool DeepSeek as good as it seems? You know, that is the big question here. You know, Americans are very weird people. They believe that anything that comes in their country is actually the best, you know. And so when you see such developments definitely coming into play, there is a lot of contentions that really contain in there, because people believe that it can replace ChatGPT. But how realistic is this? Unless, of course, we get to have the experience. That's when we can actually come to judge it. But so far, well, it seems to be having a lot of popularity from the mainstream side. Now, DeepSeek looks and feels like any other chatbot, though it leans towards being overly chatty. Now, as the OpenAI's ChatGPT or Google Gemini, you would open the application and ask it questions about anything, and it does, and it gives its best. Now, it gives long answers and will not be drawn on expressing an opinion. However, directly it is asked for one. Now, the chatbot often begins its response by saying the topic is highly subjective, whether it is politics, or soft drinks. You know, this is according to what the observers from the international scale have actually observed regarding these new developments. You know, now somebody here says that it wouldn't even commit to saying whether or not it was better than OpenAI's arrival, that is artificial intelligence assistant ChatGPT, but it did weigh up the pros and cons, that is of both. And ChatGPT did exactly the same and even used very similar language. This is according to analysis from the various people. Now, of course, DeepSeek says that it was trained on data up to October 2023. And while the application seems to have access to current information, such as today's date, the website version does not. That is according to the observations. Now, this is not dissimilar to earlier versions of ChatGPT and probably a similar attempt of safeguarding to stop the chatbot to give out the misinformation, to stop misinforming the public, most especially, when ChatGPT had actually just been adapted, that was two years back. I remember the information it had was based to 2021, and most of the questions you could ask the bot would actually be based on the information it has up to the year 2022. But then as time went on, it has upgraded. It is actually, in the current time, it can actually give you information of what happened yesterday, and you can bisect it today, when you get that information, which is not the case as yet with the new platform that is DeepSeek. That is, if we to make the comparison to that, unless maybe we shall have the right estimation when it also starts, to be real time, because now it's really hard to say whether you go for the DeepSeek or the ChatGPT. So that is the competition in the tech world, the artificial intelligence most especially. Now, away from that, let's take a look at Colombia, which backs down on the deportation flights after Trump's tariff threats. Now, according to the reports, the country has backed down from a looming trade war with the United States hours after the United States president, that is Donald Trump, threatened Bogota with tariffs and visa restrictions for turning away the United States military aircraft carrying deported migrants. Now, the climb down late on Sunday came, that is after the Colombian president, Gustavo Petro, had announced retaliatory tariffs to the United States imports and insisted that he would not accept the migrants who were not treated with dignity and respect. Now, in the late night news conference, the Colombian foreign minister, that is Luis Gilbert to Molero, said officials had overcome the impasse and would accept citizens deported from the United States. Now, a White House statement said Colombia had agreed to all Trump's terms, including unrestricted acceptance of all illegal aliens from Colombia returned from the United States, including on the United States military aircraft, without limitation and delay. Absolutely, these are retaliation to the new policies of Trump. So the countries are actually retaliating back to these reforms, and I'm not surprised because the experts had already thought about retaliation from other economies, and what can at the end of the day. Now, Washington and Bogota had been poised, that is for damaging a trade war after Donald Trump announced that he would hit the Colombian imports with a 25% emergency tariff, raising to 50% tariff from next week. That is in response to Petro's refusal to accept the deportation flights. Now, Trump also said that he would impose a travel ban, immediate visa revocations and visa sanctions on the government officials as well as their family members, supporters, and enhance the border inspections in all Colombian nationals and cargo. Now, Trump later posted an image appearing, and that is to show himself wearing a pinstripe suit and a fedora while standing in a point to sign reading the FAFO as an acronym for, very crazy word here. Okay, so let's see how that really will result into Colombia and America. And then finally, we now get back to Africa as we see alliance of Sahel states present a unified front in the negotiations with ECOWAS. Now, Foreign Minister from the Alliance of Sahel states met on Sunday, that is to discuss formalities associated with the exit from the regional bloc, that is ECOWAS. Now, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali are due to withdraw officially from the grouping of the West African states on Tuesday, 28th January, that is today. Now, at the gathering, they agreed to favor a global approach, negotiations, and relations with ECOWAS within the framework of the alliance. Now, of course, the three countries announced their plans to leave the bloc. This was just a few months after known as the French acronym AES. Now, this is quite a huge division when it comes to West Africa. Having subdivisions among all that, it is very confusing. Now, the minister said discussions must take into account the existence of a united actor to be able to hold talks with ECOWAS. This was in a spirit of what we call peaceful coexistence. Now, there are relations with the bloc have actually been tense after military coups took place in Mali in 2020 and Burkina Faso, that was in 2022. Now, Niger, that was last July. Now, ECOWAS condemned all three coups, suspended their membership and praised them to restore civilian rule. But the military leaders failed to oblige and, of course, kicked out the French troops stationed in their countries and turned to Russia to help when it comes to waging an insurgency within the region. So divisions in the ECOWAS, what does that mean for the development of that region? But also, if we talk about a united Africa, then why are we having no associations? Why are we having countries coming to to have a different mind about the African, how they should really be running themselves? Yeah, so I'm thinking it seems to be there is a lot of more divisions, and now and all this, of course, is in relation because the political environment in some of these countries does not really reconcile with some of the member states, most especially when it comes to electing the president. I'm imagining if that was the case approached in the East African region, what would it be like? So, in my own opinion, I'm thinking the division of the West African states, to form other various groupings is going to be a huge standing block when it comes to uniting Africa and talking about a united, a borderless Africa when it comes to running a business and so many other affairs. Well, that is it from the Caribbean, East Africa, and the international updates. Let's take a break. And of course, our business tips and quotes into the pipeline on the business update. Stick around.